I'm going to shoot straight with you. If you're paying list price right now on a new construction home, you're getting ripped off. Today, I'm giving you all the secrets. I'm giving you all the behind the scenes things on everything you need to know to get the best deal possible, the stuff the builders don't want you to know when it comes to negotiating, some tips, some tricks, some realistic expectations, all those things you need so that you can get the deal of a lifetime when it comes to buying new construction real estate. We're going to split this into two parts because it is negotiated a little bit differently, whether we're talking about building from the ground up or we're talking about buying off a builder's inventory, whether that home is complete or it's almost complete or about to be complete, whatever. There's two different kind of sections to that. So I'm just going to give you straightforward, honest advice. I'm going to talk to you like I talk to all of my clients. If we haven't met before, my name is Zach. My team and I, we sell new construction real estate here in DFW. This is what we specialize in. And honestly, new construction is really all we do. So if anybody can tell you how to get the best deals, it's me. So I'm going to just kind of shoot it straight with you, give you some honest feedback, give you some things that might be helpful. And hopefully by the time you're done with this video, you know how to get the best deal possible when it comes to real estate, new construction style in DFW. And hopefully we're working together to make that happen for you. So let's start on the build side first. I've got a couple different things to give you to make sure you kind of understand how we're negotiating this deal, because it's a little bit different than what it would be if we were trying to pull something off of inventory. So on the build side, what you have to understand is the way builders build out their incentives, right? So you're going to have your base price, you're going to have your lot premiums, you're going to have any sort of structural upgrades, you're going to have your design upgrades, and anything that you spend on the home is going to get tied up in the price. So when you see a listed price on a build and it says, okay, hey, the base price is $449, right? Well, that's really not, if it's listed and it has an address attached to it, it's probably an inventory home. You're probably gonna pay close to that. If it's a build and you're gonna, work through the 6 to 8 month process, it's definitely gonna be more than that unless you don't add a single thing to that home and you go with the base of the base model and you make no changes, right? So I always tell people, assume you're probably gonna spend somewhere between 12 and 15% of base price on all of your upgrades. That's a healthy place to be, right? So on that same home, if we're talking, hey, 449, 1, 2, 3, and we assume in the middle, so times 0.13, so 13%, maybe $57,000. So plus 444,900 or 444,900, whatever it was, right at 500. Now, can you do it for a little bit less? Yes. Can you do it for a little bit more? Yes, of course. But a healthy number is probably that 12 to 15% is kind of what we run our base estimates off of. So you have to understand when you're looking at build opportunities, the biggest thing is they're probably not going to negotiate a ton on the base price, right? So if you see that, builder A is selling the Propel model, the strawberry kiwi flavor, the best one. And in your particular neighborhood, it has a base price at $420, right? Well, they're not going to say, hey, well, I really, really like that home. Can we start the base price at $400? They're not going to be able to do that. And here's the thing you have to, and you don't want them to do that. And here's why. Because if you walk in and you say, oh yeah, let's get $20,000 off the base. And then I walk in and I say, hey, let me get 25,000 off the base. The comp structure is going to be way out of whack, right? And so when it feels like is you're like, oh man, they're not willing to talk with us. They're not willing to negotiate. No, what they're doing is they're protecting the neighborhood. So the sales rep responsibility is to protect the neighborhood of what they've got going, right? Because what we don't know is they've got, 15 of these already on the ground that somebody else is building. And if we start, pricing $20,000 lower and they started 5 months before us, it throws everything out of whack, right? And so as counterintuitive and as frustrating as it might seem, you want the builder to kind of slowly, incrementally increase base pricing, right? I know it's frustrating and I know it doesn't make sense, but we want them to do that because it helps push values in the neighborhood. And also it protects what you're buying so that somebody else didn't walk in and get the base price for, $25,000, $30,000 $30,000 cheaper. It will happen on a very rare occasion, but don't expect it. What we can expect is, hey, your base price is $420. Can we get more toward our design money? Can we get more toward our lot premium? Can we get more toward our structural selections? Can we get more toward our closing costs? we can talk about those things because in a way, a builder can kind of nudge those into a transaction, right? So what nobody can see is, hey, you paid $420 on the base and got $30,000 in incentives. Well, the next person paid $420 on the base and they only got $20,000 in incentive, and it can all kind of mold into the same number, right? So this is kind of like where we say, hey, 2 + 2 is 4, 3 + 1 is 4, 4 + 0 is 4. The numbers shift on one side, but it still gets us to the same outcome. So on a build job, we want to try and negotiate more for design money. We want to try and negotiate more for closing costs. We're not going to say, hey, we want to change the base price of the plan. It's most likely it's not really going to happen. In that same vein, when it comes to talking to the builder about a structural upgrade, hey, we're adding a 3rd car garage, we're adding a 4th bathroom, we're extending our master bedroom. The cost for that is the cost for that, right? So if they tell you, hey, the 3rd car garage on this plan is $15,000, which is fairly normal for what we see for a lot of builders, $15,000. You're like, well, my cousin Joey that has a truck and a concrete, mixer, he said he could do it for $9,000. They're not going to shop that. That's the cost they're getting for labor, material from their vendors. So you're not in the same vein that they're not going to negotiate on the base price. They're also not going to negotiate on the cost of the upgrade. But we want to try and get them to give us more money to spend to do those type of upgrades, right? Makes sense. It should, because that's kind of the way we're tracking, right? So we want more money to do those upgrades. They're not going to necessarily negotiate with us on the price of the upgrade. It's going to cost what it's going to cost based on how they're building out how they're building out those plans. They're also not going to, in a lot of places, unless you're in hyper similar neighborhoods, you're not going to be able to say, hey, well, I can get this plan in Rockwall for this much, but if I go to Salina and it's $150,000 more. Well, why? Well, location determines that, right? Now, if you're looking at two neighborhoods that are within the same city and they have very similar amenities and they have very similar tax rate, then that conversation changes. But stretching it across the metroplex and trying to say, hey, we can do this here. Why can't we do it? Because you can't, right? So the other big thing on builds when it comes to things we can negotiate for is lot premiums. So if you're looking and the builder says, hey, we've got 15, 20, 25, I've seen some lots up to $100,000 on a premium, right? There's a little bit of room to move on that. Now, I will tell you that the cost of land and just the cost of development, the cost of acquisitions have gone up significantly because the developers who hold the land and who hold the keys to get all this process started are running their pricing up, which then runs up pricing on the builder, which then runs up pricing on the consumer, right? So they're going to have a little bit of room to move on that. How much? It really depends, right? Now, if you're trying to get the corner of the cul-de-sac that backs up to the green belt and they're listing it for $90,000 and you're trying to get it for $5,000, that's probably not going to happen. They're going to be real proud of that lot. Let's just be honest and call it what it is. Sometimes they get really, really proud of that lot and they get really, really excited about it and they think they can sell it for a premium, and maybe they can. If it's 90, could we get it for 80, 75? Maybe. Just depends on the day, depends on the promotion, depends on how much they've sold that month, which is kind of one of the indicators in general that we'll talk about throughout the video. So negotiate on your lot premium, ask and just see, hey, what can we get here that helps offset this, because we really want to do this lot. One of the things you can kind of drop that sometimes will work with builders is, hey, we're going to spend some money on this house, right? If we know we're going to do a lot of upgrades, you're going to run it up over that high base price. Them coming off that lot premium might entice them a little bit more, right? They might consider it. So that's where we can really do that on the build. One of the last pieces on the build I will tell you is a lot of times you're getting two different numbers in terms of closing cost and design and structural options, right? So builders will put it in two separate buckets and say, hey, you have this much to spend at design up to this amount you can do, and then you have this much at closing costs. We've seen a couple of builders recently that have said something like they told us to say, hey, we'll give you a 50% discount on up to $100,000 in structural and design options. But if you don't spend it, you don't get it. Let's say you only spend So like you have a $50,000 account up to $100,000. So 100 grand, 50% off, $50,000. Let's say we only spend 50, we don't get that other what's left back in closing costs. So that's where they're kind of trying to like entice you to spend a little bit more money. And so sometimes they'll structure it like that. Sometimes they'll structure it to where it's like, hey, you just here's a flat design incentive, however you want to use it, like go crazy, have a good time, we'll figure it out. Sometimes they'll say, hey, we have one lump sum bucket for your design, your closing cost, and everything, and say, hey, here's $50,000. You split it up however you want to split it up. And I would always say, remind you, please make sure we just leave a little bit, 10, 15, 20 back for closing costs. It helps buy the rate down. It helps, offset some of those cash money options you have to bring to the table. So just if they put it in a bucket, ask them to leave a little bit off to the side, or plan to leave a little bit off to the side. On that same note, we're seeing a few builders right now, because interest rates are what they are and have continued to stay relatively high in that, high 6 range. We're seeing some builders offer a long-term rate lock instead of closing costs, right? And we'll talk about those more in detail when we get to the inventory homes, because that's a big thing happening in inventory homes. But there's some builders right now on long-term builds are saying, hey, if we can, if we feel like we can finish this home, it's probably 180 days, right at that 6-month mark, right? If we feel like we can do this in 180 days, we can do this long-term rate lock at 5.25 or 4.99 or 5.99 with a 1.0 buy down on the front end. Ask about those. Some of them are doing it, some of them are not, but you're probably not going to get that and closing costs. Like you're not going to get both because of the amount of money it's costing them. It's costing them a lot of money to buy those long-term rate locks. So if they're giving you that, you're probably not going to have the closing costs. So to recap on our build jobs, we're not negotiating really on structural prices. We're not negotiating on base price. We are asking for more in incentive money. If they're advertising, 20, you might be able to get to 30. Don't go crazy, right? Like, hey, you're advertising 20. Can I get 100? No, like you're just not. And of course, as with everything, the more you spend, the more money they're likely to give you. So as your price increases, the more discounts you're going to rack up in terms of what you're going to have the ability to do. They're not negotiating on the price of what it costs to do something. The cost is what the cost is. We just need more money to cover it. Same things for like material, right? We're in the design center and you're trying to do something like, well, can we do this? Well, no, like this cheaper, the material's cheaper at Home Depot. Doesn't matter. They're not going to do things that are not on their catalog. And here's the reason why, and this probably sounds terrible, but you need to kind of understand this. The builder, they're assuming all of the risk when they build your home. You're in this deal for, $5, $10, $15,000 of earnest money, whatever they're holding, right? But they've got the hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs, and they've got the risk tied to that. They also have to assume on a build job, the worst case scenario is that you cannot buy this home, or you decide to walk away from this home and they have to resell it. So when you ask me and you're like, Zach, well, why can't we do this? And it's like, well, that's not in their catalog. Like they don't offer that thing because they have to be able to warranty it, and they have to assume are going to be the ones reselling it, because your deal is going to fall apart. I know that sounds terrible, and I know you're planning on buying that home. Sometimes things change and you just have to roll with it. Like they have to think that way. So we've done the build. Let's do the inventory, which right now, in my opinion, if you can move quickly on something, I think this is the better option. If you're willing to give up the customization and the choices, and you can find something on inventory that works and works for your timeline and works for your budget, right now, I think this is where I would try and move on something as quick as I can, because of some of the incentives that they're putting in play here. Is it more? I don't know that it's more, but it feels like it's more, because when you think about it, when the builder's putting a home on inventory, right? It's still a brand new home. Nobody's ever lived in it. They're building it on speculation that somebody's going to buy it. So they're going in and they're making all their selections on, hey, here's what we know people are liking. Here's what they're looking for. Here's the design. Here's the structure. Here's all of these things. And then they're speculating and hoping somebody's going to show up and buy it. So when you see those advertised on, hey, what are we doing? You're not having to advertise for a design incentive and all this, like they're just rolling it all into one closing incentive and saying, hey, here's what we got, here we go. Now, this is where it gets fun. How do we get the best deal possible on something like this? Couple tips. If you are looking at inventory homes and you find it on the builder's website and it's like, hey, this is 123 Banana Street and they're getting ready to sell it, and you found it on the Highland website, or you found it directly on the Trophy website or the Pace Setter website or wherever, the very next thing you need to do is you need to open up Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, whatever MLS site you like, and search for that home. If you find it on MLS, you're going to have a little bit less negotiating power than if it's not fully listed on MLS. Builders are not required to get all of their inventory on the MLS. They're just not. Like they're not required to do that. And here's why I tell you might have better negotiating power. If it's on MLS, that sale has to be recorded. So whatever the final purchase price is, it has to be recorded, and it's going to be used as a comp in their neighborhood. So remember, like what I told you about earlier, why they're not negotiating on base pricing, protecting the comps, same kind of thing. If it's MLS listed, when it closes, they have to record what it sells for, which then gives them a comp for what they're trying to do for the future pieces of their neighborhood. So if they're early on and they're trying to sell for the next 2 years, they don't want to screw that comp up, right? So you're gonna be able to negotiate on it. But if it's not listed on MLS and they don't have to record that, you might have a little bit more power to negotiate on that deal to get a little bit more off the price. Again, I say a little bit more, 10, 15, 17, not 40, 50, 70, 90. We're not there. That's not but not on MLS, a little bit more negotiating points for that home. Another one would be, hey, if this home was a bust and it came back to the builder. So like what we're talking about, somebody was building it and the contract fell apart, whether they couldn't qualify, they moved, they decided they didn't like it, doesn't matter. The builder gets this home back. They weren't planning on getting that back. They need to move that home. So they're going to be heavily motivated to get that home moved. And you're in, the hard part is you're never really, they're probably not going to play that unless you have an agent that has connections with those sales reps, and the sales reps are sending those out, right? Like I get texts every day, hey, we just got this house back, I need to move it. Like, what do you got? What do you need to buy her for? We're ready to make a deal. All the time. So we would love to get you connected with those kind of deals and get you plugged in. But when we get plugged in with those, you're working with us. We don't give those out for free. We'll give all the other information, but not those. Got to be working with us. I will tell you, if you're looking for the best place to find new construction deals, we did build you a brand new free resource. It's on our new website. We're going to put the QR codes right. Pick a side, left, right, doesn't matter. You can check out our website and browse exclusively new construction homes. Like we've got it set up so you can look at only new construction. You don't have to look at the resale stuff, and you can see what's going on, who's got plans where, who's got inventory on the ground, who can build. We can talk through all the communities, and any videos we've done on those communities, they're all on that page. So go check them out when you're done with this video. So we're talking about it being on MLS or not on MLS. That's the first one. Second one is understand the back pocket money, right? And so what this means is some builders advertise across the board, hey, we're doing this incentive and you can do this in every single one of our communities. And it doesn't matter what the home, like this is the rate we're doing, this is how it's happening, this is what we're doing. Other times, hey, some builders play it a little bit differently, and they give their sales teams like, hey, you can do this on this home and this on this home. And you really just got to start asking those questions, right? And so if they're advertising, hey, we've got $20,000 in closing costs. Hey, the sales rep probably has what they call back pocket money, which means their management has approved them X amount of dollars. Hey, you can do this. And the back pocket money is different on every single deal. So there's no blanket statement of like, oh yeah, you're definitely, but for a general rule of thumb, $5,000 to $10,000 before it has to go through management and get approved, right? There's probably 5 or 10 with most builders for, price reduction or better off on closing costs, which pro tip, you're better to take more in closing cost and buy the rate down than you are to take $5,000 on price reduction. We could do the math on that and show you price 5 off the price or 5 extra toward a rate buy down, and you would see a massive difference. We should do that. It'd be fun. So they have back pocket money. They have the ability to walk through those things, and you just have to ask. But as with everything else, guys, we don't do this. I feel like so many times people want to walk in and be incredibly like demanding, like, oh, you do this and do that. Like that's not how we play the game, right? Like is it a negotiation? Yes. Is there hard conversations that happen? Absolutely. But do we have to be buttheads? We do not. We do it relationally, right? Like, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is what we would like to do. Make it make sense. Like, make it a win for us, make it a win for you. I know you need to sell this home, but also please, and this is what I want to help you be. I want to help you be realistic in what we're going to get, right? Like we're not walking into a $380,000 deal and making it 250. Like it's not going to happen. And if it is happening, that sales rep is probably getting fired. And truthfully, if it was happening, everybody and their mom would be doing it. So like, I want you to be realistic in what we ask for. So understand, back pocket money. Hey, understand there's other things that can get thrown into transactions like we were talking about earlier that can kind of be hidden, epoxy on a garage floor, blinds, washer, dryer, fridge, all of those things, those are things that we can ask for. Some of the builders are advertising that they're just throwing those in automatically. So for example, if you're looking at like a trophy or a Meritage, a lot of their late stage homes, so stage 8, stage 9, and when we're counting stages, that's like the builders say, hey, we're almost getting complete. Most of them run it on like a 10 stage scale. Stage 9 home, it's like, hey, can we get, they're starting to just put those Meritage and Trophy, just starting to put those in and say, hey, we've got washer, dryer, fridge, blinds in all of our late stage homes that can close in the next 30 to 45 days. Ask. Like, the worst they can tell you is no, right? Ask on the closing costs. Hey, can we get a little bit extra here? I will want to tell you, if you're seeing these advertised rates where it's like, hey, we're doing $499 for the first year and then $599 fixed, you're probably not going to get that plus more closing costs because of the amount of money they're trying to spend to get those in. You need help understanding those forward commitments and what they mean. We've done videos on those. You can find them on our channel talking in depth about that. So just know there's going to be a certain maximum allowable contribution that they can give you. There's going to be only so much that they can do, like per the lending guidelines. And if you're seeing those rates, you're not going to probably get the rate plus all of that on top of it. So you want the sales rep to like you. You want to be nice. We want to be firm, but we don't want to be a jerk. You also want to get to the point to where we understand standing inventory leverage, right? Like, so if they're sitting on a ton of inventory and the competition in their neighborhood is sitting on a ton of inventory, like, in some neighborhoods, you can make an apples to apples comparison, right? Like, you could say, hey, this home and this home, yeah, I understand. Like, we're splitting hairs. In other neighborhoods, you can't do that because of a different quality level of a builder. So, for example, I don't have anything against Trophy. I sell a lot of Trophy homes, but their quality is not a Highland home quality. Like, it is just not. So if they're in the same neighborhoods and you're looking at a Highland home that's 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,200 square feet, and they have it listed at $490. And then you're looking at a Trophy home that's 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,200 square feet, and they have it listed at $420. And you're like, that's a big gap. The Highland home might come down a little on the scale, but they're not going to try and compete at that 420. Like, it's a totally different product. So yes, shop builders against each other to an extent, but you need to understand like the quality differences. You need to understand and ask that question, or have your agent ask that question. Hey, or find an agent that can articulate the differences in, hey, why we like this builder over why it's worth that $70,000 delta, or whatever it is. Hey, here's what you're going to get in terms of finish out. Here's what the customer service is like. Here's what the warranty process is like. Here's what the lending process, all of those things play into that number negotiating point. So yes, negotiate with the understanding of what's on standing inventory, but also this is a pro tip. Because a lot of people think, especially in the resale side, like if you're looking at a resale home, one of the biggest indicators is days on market. And so when you see these homes on a resale home, it's like, oh man, they've been on market for a long time. They got to be getting desperate. We're gonna lowball them. They're gonna take a good deal. That's not always the case with new construction, because sometimes builders put homes on MLS or on the market as soon as they start moving dirt. And so that home's been on, you'll see it, it's it hits 180 or 190 days. Oh yeah, we're ready. We're going to get it. And it's like, no, this home's actually only been ready for 30 days, right? Does longer on market sometimes help? Yes, but it's not always an indicator that you're going to get a good deal on a new construction home because of how those things get marketed, right? So you want to ask, get all those things in writing, get the things you need.
And then be ready. So what's probably going to happen if we're asking for a lot, I'm going to tell you how this goes. Is your agent you and your agent are going to talk and say, hey, this is what we want to do. Great. Agent's going to go back and say, hey, to the sales rep for the builder, hey, we're interested. We want to see what we can do to make something work. Right. Talk to me about where you're at. Talk to me about what you can make happen. And sometimes they'll just give you the farm, right? It just depends on the sales rep. They'll just give you the farm. Other times we got to work for it a little bit, and it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of give and take. And then there comes this point when I like to use the phrase with my clients, I will say, guys, let's ask for this. And I want to tagline it with the statement, we will sign today if you give us this. That is the cherry on top when a sales rep can go to their manager and say, guys, this is what they're asking for. And they said they would sign today. Now, here's the deal. If we say that, you have to mean that. We can't just go around willy-nilly saying, yeah, give us this and we'll sign today. We want them to go to bat for us. We want them to fight for us. And that's the key phrase. So we'll go back and, we're working on it. For example, I'm working on a deal last week with some clients. Builder has the home listed. It's listed at $535, right? So what they were offering, it was $535, quick move in inventory, and it was $535, 20 grand in closing cost, and it had already been reduced 15,000. So it was at $550. So we went back and forth with my client and I, and we said, hey, what do we want to do? I said, guys, here's what I think we ask for. Let's get to 25 in closing cost, and let's get another 7 off the price, because 7 feels good. So 535, let's get to 528, 25 in closing costs, and I want them to give you your blinds. If we get that, are you willing to sign today? Think about it. Yes, we're willing to sign today. Okay. Sales rep, hey, here's where we want to be. The credit's good. We don't, we've already done the application with the lender. We've got our earnest money ready. We don't have a home to sell. We're ready to go. Get me these things and we'll make it happen. And he's like, okay, let me make a call. Calls me back 15 minutes later. You got a deal. Let's make it happen. Great. So don't throw that phrase around unless you're ready. But when you're ready, hey, if we can do these things, and again, be realistic. Don't go in trying to get their firstborn child, right? And like we were talking about earlier, in incentives, the more you spend, the greater price reduction you might be able to see. So 5, 6, 7, 800,000, those are where you're going to see those 50, 60, 70, $100,000 price reductions in some cases. So it's a dance, it's an art. There's lots of things that kind of go into this. At the end of the day, you got to be realistic. You got to understand how they're in the business to make money, right? I know everybody deserves a home. Yes, all those things are true. They're in the business to make money. They're in the business to get sales. If you're negotiating at the end of a quarter, and hey, it's been a slow quarter, they're trying to get homes off the books. You're playing from a place of advantage. If it's the end of a month, you're like, hey, you might have the high ground on that one, right? If it's a publicly traded company, some of those, they want to move homes. They need to move homes. But honestly, I like personally the smaller companies that are a little bit more local to Texas. You get a little more personal experience, and they look at each deal individually versus some of the bigger corporate companies. So for example, a Meritage, a Trophy, they don't take deviations much on their deals. Their salespeople have pretty much been told, hey, we can do this and you can deviate to here. And because we do so much volume, versus another builder that says, hey, we're going to do volume, but not nearly the volume they're going to do. We can deviate. We can kind of fluctuate the deals how we want it to make sense and move and groove wherever we want it to be. The last one I'll give you, and then we'll wrap this up, and you've hung out this long, so I appreciate you guys for that. Last one I'll give you is you can negotiate a little bit on closing timeline within reason, right? Especially if it's an inventory home and they're like, hey, we want to close in the next 30 days. Cool. Can we, hey, it's the end of March. At this point, can we wait until May? Can we wait till May 1st? We've got a couple things going on. Can we push it till May 1st? Yeah. We can navigate that. Hey, it's the end of March. Can we close this inventory home that's been sitting in September? No, not doing that, right? So tons of tips, tons of tricks. We love doing this. Is honestly the negotiating. That's my favorite part. Is hanging out with you guys and let's find these really good deals. So if we can help, as always, we've put our contact information. It's on the video right here. If I missed something or if you have questions, you can always leave them down below. Happy to answer anything I can and help you get the best deal possible. Feel like you're walking away with the deal of a lifetime. So appreciate you guys. We will see you in the next video. Bye for now.